Business owners who are struggling with sales, this is about to be one of the most valuable sales videos that you have ever seen. So you need to understand this in order to close more of the sales that you're not currently getting. So this is called the trans-theoretical model stages of change. These are the stages that somebody has to go through in order to create behavior change. So if I want something different for myself, I have to go about it differently. That means that I need a method, I need to start doing something, I need to stop doing something, or I need a completely new strategy. And so if you think about your prospects on the other ends of your calls, they need to start doing things, stop doing things, and they need to learn how to do the right way to get the outcome that they want. So this was originally studied for addiction. That's how far back this goes so this was originally studied for addiction. That's how far back this goes. I don't even know if I'm going to cut out that error or not. I'm probably just going to post this video. So when we look at these stages, the ones that you need to be most concerned with are contemplation, preparation, and action. People in pre-contemplation aren't even aware that they have a problem. They're fine with living life as it is, and they're not going to be booking any calls with you. They may meet you later, but they're not even thinking about the outcome. The people in contemplation are people who are weighing the pros and cons of getting the result in the first place. They're not weighing the pros and cons of working with you. They're weighing the pros and cons of, is this a thing that I even want? Because they might not be in enough pain yet. And we know that people have to move away from pain and towards their desire in order to sustain a behavior change. So in the contemplation phase, that conversation looks completely different because you have to come to an understanding together of, is this an outcome that they want? In the preparation phase, this is somebody who has already committed to, yes, this is the outcome that I want. How am I going to get there? I'm currently planning on how am I going to take myself from where I am right now to where I want to be. And these are some of your hottest leads. These are the people who are booking calls. They know they want the thing. They just have questions about you and about your process. The action takers, these are people who maybe have been burned before. They're the ones that are taking action. Because if we look at this, this is not a linear process. This is actually a very cyclical process. People can move back and forth through the stages. So somebody might progress and then they might regress. So if somebody tries something and then it fails, they're back into preparation. Hell, maybe they're even back into contemplation. They're so frustrated with, why has this not worked for me? This is never going to work. Maybe they're telling themselves stories about it's not going to work ever, and maybe something like that working is even a fallacy. Like, they're creating all of these stories in their head. And so people can move from one stage to another, forwards or backwards. It's not this linear thing. But people in action, this is important because you have to understand what they've tried in the past, and you have to really get into the weeds with them if they have tried multiple things and they haven't worked. And we'll get to this here in a second. So these people have already been trying things. These people are preparing to try things. These people may or may not be committed to the thing in the first place. So where most founders or sales reps go wrong is we just try to have a logical conversation. And then when somebody objects, we have a rebuttal to reframe the conversation and show them the errors in their logic so that we can move them forward. That does not take into account, do they actually want this? That does not take into account, are they currently preparing for this? Have they been burned in the past? And yes, there are certain nuances around questions in the discovery of what have you tried before that you might weave into your pitch there or into the rebuttal. But the key here is that most of the time you're not having the right conversation, because this all sounds very logical. But the illogical and psychological part that most people are missing is in between and embedded into each of these stages. We have limiting beliefs. We have the stories that we're telling ourselves. We have the conclusions that we've drawn about ourselves and about the world and about everything from a very young age. When these stories have been compounded over time, we tell it to ourselves over and over. They've now been reinforced. They've now been strengthened. Now it's something that's almost a core belief about the things that I believe, and it has to do with whether they're going to get this result or not. So think in the fitness industry, oh, I'm just big boned. I'm always going to be this way. Or obesity runs in my family. Obesity might run in your family, but have you actually done A, B, and C? Is that the reason maybe that you're not getting from point A to point B? Because at the end of the day, Weight loss is simple. Having the right conversation at the right stage of where this person is at is going to make or break your sale. And if you are not having the conversation about the invisible things that are getting in their way, you are not going to close the sale. And that's why you're only closing the people who are super hot, who are ready to buy, and anybody who has an objection just ghosts you or says they need to think about it, and then you never hear back, and so you get ghosted. This is why rebuttals and script frameworks that you're using and the shit you see on Instagram do not work, because they're not actually having you have a conversation with the person on the other side of the screen from you. They're having you read something that somebody wrote that overcomes some specific objection, but it actually has nothing to do with the conclusion that this person has drawn about themselves or about the world or about the process in general. And so you have to be willing and able to meet them where they are. You have to be able to see the unseen. You have to be willing to identify the limiting beliefs that they themselves might not even be voicing. You have to be able to dissect and excavate the stories that they've been telling themselves for forever, because they're not even aware that those things are problems. They know that they want the result, but they have no idea they're in this stage when it comes to understanding all the things that are in here that are limiting them. That's why they need you. And so if you don't have the capacity or the tools to be able to excavate all of that, again, you're just going to keep losing those leads. These people want to buy. That's why they're getting on the call with you. They want their problem solved. It's not that you're so bad at sales, it's that you're just not having the right conversation. Which then also brings up, even if you do have the tools to be able to have the conversation that calls out their limiting beliefs, the stories that they tell themselves at the stage of the process, you are also human, which means that you are susceptible to the human condition, which means that you have your own limiting beliefs and stories that you're telling yourself. You have the ways that you're showing up to sales calls. So think about any time that you've been hot or any time that you've been cold in sales calls back to back to back. Maybe you're 0 for 7. How do you show up? What do you tell yourself? What's the energy that you're showing up on the call with? Suddenly you're getting in your own way, and that's why you stay in a slump for longer, because now you've started to make that mean something about you. And it has to do with your limiting beliefs, your stories, your fears, your conclusions that you've drawn about yourself from this process, even though it's somebody didn't make a decision because of what they believed about themselves, and now you're putting it on yourself and saying what that means about you, and now you're not closing more and more and more. And so you have to be able to show up without any of that in your way. You have to be able to have the tools to understand what's going on in the prospect's head. You have to have the right conversation, because if two people show up and they both have their own shit going on, it's going to be a really cloudy conversation that ends with neither person winning. This person still has the problem. This person is making it mean something about themselves. And then they're going to go and get on a call with somebody else who knows how to have those conversations, and they're going to pay in full. Sales is simple. It's psychology that is not. Sales is a conversation between me and you. And if I'm grounded and I know that I have something that can help you and you need an outcome, you believe that I have the way to get there, and you can afford it, then you're going to go with me, and we're gonna both end up being happy parties on the call, because it's a win-win. We're not supposed to be butting heads. And that's the problem if you just use some of these objection handling frameworks or these rebuttals, is this person who has all of these things going on, who is weighing all of these things, they don't trust you. And so then when you start rebuttaling or challenging them, they are more likely to feel defensive. They're more likely to contract instead of just being vulnerable and having a transparent conversation with you. And so then, depending on what type of a person that they are, they may ghost you because they don't like direct conversations, or they may say, no, that's for me, and like go down other rabbit holes. But at the end of the day, either way, neither of them are buying. So your ability to first understand these stages that somebody goes through and whether somebody wants the outcome or not, what they've tried, and your ability to see the unseen, to make the invisible visible. Those are 2 steps. You have to see something in the prospect, And then you have to have the tools to excavate. And then from there, we can get one step closer, one step closer, one step closer to them having the realization that they need within themselves. But none of that can happen if you are in your own way with all of your shit. I hope this was an enlightening training. This is certainly something that has completely changed my world when it comes to sales, and it's changed the lives of all of my clients. If this is something that you're interested in, you can find me on Instagram. It's createwithcaitlin_. I talk about sales, money, business, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one.